If there's football here at ESPN, Laura Rutledge is covering it, including SEC football for the last 15 years, and ultimately was on the sideline for the Rose Bowl, which we now know is Nick Saban's final game coaching. Was there anything, hindsight being 2020, anything that stands out to you that maybe would have indicated something like this was coming?
You know, you heard Reese say this, and I think it sticks out to me too, just being with Alabama so much over these last few years. He was approaching things with a lot of gratitude. It was almost like he was savoring every moment. And a lot of us thought, well, it's because he really loves this particular team, which I do think he did. This 2023 team meant a lot to him. But I also think it's because maybe he hadn't quite decided that this was going to ultimately be the decision, but it was one that was maybe in the back of his mind. This was the interview that I did with him following the loss to Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and I think you get a little sense of that here.
I think because of what you just mentioned, it seems like you've really loved this team. What's your favorite thing about them?
Well, I just think that, you know, when everybody buys into the principles and values of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to coach and what you're trying to teach, and everybody does that, I mean, it's really a good feeling, and it's special, and it doesn't happen all the time. And it certainly happened this year with this team, and it was a special chemistry, good leadership, and everybody buying in, and it was a lot of fun.
I got to say, even as I see that, I'm still shocked. The SEC looks completely different right now. College football looks completely different. When you think of college football, when you think of football in general, you think of Nick Saban. We're now going to enter into a new era, and I wouldn't be surprised, Elle, if he's still involved in some way, shape, or form. I want to point out, I didn't see any lessening in the energy for Saban. Even watching him run out on the field at the Rose Bowl, he was running faster than I could at 35 years old. I mean, this guy is not slowing down in any way. I don't think when it comes to commitment to the game, it just may be a different type of commitment.
We talked about it too. This may be argued as one of his better coaching jobs. This is a team that we just sort of wrote off after 2 weeks, and alas, they were a couple of plays away from making another national championship. You're around them. Your whole job is to observe. What does he mean to his players?
His players love him, and we work with a lot of the former players who are now in their late 30s and even in their 40s, and they love him. They talk about the impact that he had on them as people, obviously the football field, but even as people. Marcus Spears comes to mind. The decision to change from being on the offensive side of the ball, tight end, to being a D lineman made him a bunch of money in the NFL, was the reason why he had the career that he had. And then you fast forward all the way to now, and Jalen Milroe saying that Nick Saban was the reason why he got to where he got this year, even knocking on the door of the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Jalen saying that Nick Saban realized early on in the season he needed positive reinforcement. Saban reworking his entire coaching and his routine every week to say, Jalen, we're going to have a meeting every week so I can pour into you and encourage you. I think what you saw is a catering of coaching throughout Nick Saban's time as a coach that really benefited his players. To me, he's the ultimate players coach, and I don't think we often saw a lot of that. We would see some of the craziness on the sideline and say, oh, you know, he's really getting into the guy, and it's because he always expected greatness and expects greatness out of his players, but it was what made everybody great around him. That spread throughout all of his teams, and I think those guys look back on that even to this day and think of what he's done for them.
We're going to talk to one of those former players, and Greg McElroy, who won a national championship with Saban in Alabama. Lastly, it's not just the players who owe him a lot. And I love what you brought up about what Nick Saban does and how he pulls other coaches up as well.
I think that's a great point, Elle. And you look around, I mean, Steve Sarkisian at Texas talks so much about the impact that Coach Saban had on him, really bringing him up to the prominence that he's had at Texas because of the second chance, the third chances even at times that Coach Saban gave him. Lane Kiffin getting other opportunities in his career after Nick Saban said, yeah, I'll take you in. I'll let you come in here and revamp my offense and think ahead for what this could be, especially in the SEC and going forward. There are so many coaches who are on this list, and I think college football is in a really good position coaching-wise because of all the guys that have ties to Coach Saban. Kirby Smart with your Georgia Bulldogs, Elle. There's so much that he will do going forward here, and all of them. I mean, it's just Nick Saban's imprint is very heavily on college football going forward, no matter what happens here. And lastly, I just point out, it's been a joy to cover him. He's always been so respectful. He's always been wonderful. He's been fun, kind, classy. I'm not sure that gets told enough about him, and I think he deserves and his family deserves to hear that.
Give me something.